welcome back to another vlog. Today is just a regular Friday. Nothing's really going on today. Just, you know, a regular Friday. Just kidding, it's my favorite freaking holiday. And if you don't know, a couple months back, I made a joke on a live show with Katie during our book club discussion about like picking my new favorite holiday. And I was like, no, St. Patty's Day. Like, I'm going all out. And this is like the most I think I've ever committed to a holiday. Like, I didn't even buy decor for Christmas, but I have garland up for St. Patty's Day, you best believe. Anyways, I was originally going to do like a fun like 24-hour readathon reading only green books. However, I have work today and I also have the priority of finishing Shadow and Bone season 2. And I also have the priority of finishing a book for my Rangers Apprentice live show tomorrow. So I don't actually have time to do a 24-hour readathon, only reading green books. So I thought I'd just make this like a fun little like week vlog. However, it's going to be starting on a Friday because it's St. Patty's Day. I will go over my TBR, starting with one green book for, you know, the occasion. And that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I have been bullied into reading this book. Not really bullied. I say that, I'm joking, I swear, but Darcy has been commenting a bunch. She got Katie to read it. Katie really loved it, said I would love it. I believe it's a standalone, and they released like a novella prequel or something like that. I love a standalone fantasy. I feel like the vibes are perfect right now, and I think it's time to pick up Sorcery of Thorns. Also, we're going into spring. Spring starts in like 3 days, and I don't know, it kind of gives me that spring vibe. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I feel. So there's that. I can't start with that, unfortunately, because today I actually have to start with reading The Burning Bridge by John Flanagan. I say unfortunately as if it's like not part of my favorite series, and I really, really love this book. But I do have the Rangers Apprentice live show tomorrow, and I haven't actually read the book. I've read it many a times, like many a times, but I haven't read it recently this year, so I wanted to do a reread, obviously. And then the other kind of book on my TBR is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I also have Chain of Thorns that I want to finish. I don't know where I have placed it, because I'm pretty sure this is just the dust jacket. We'll just use the dust jacket for a visual. I also have Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare I want to finish. I'm 500 pages in, perhaps, out of like 800, something ridiculous. And then I have this for the book club discussion at the end of the week. This is going to be my first Brandon Sanderson book, so I am extremely excited. Like, I don't want to preemptively say that I'm going to love it and love Brandon Sanderson's writing, but I really love Patrick Rothfuss's writing, and he wrote high fantasy, and this is high fantasy, and I can't wait to dive into the Cosmere universe. And apparently Warbreaker is a standalone with a potential for a prequel or a sequel in the future, but right now it stands as a standalone. I'm just excited to dive into a Brandon Sanderson book that I don't really have to like commit too much time to in terms of like an entire series or a series that is still being written. So this is my little TBR for this next week. I don't know why I said this past week. For this upcoming week, I do need to read The Burning Bridge first. That is a priority, but then I probably will pick up Chain of Thorns, but it's kind of green. Well, it is definitely green, so it matches the vibe. It is also kind of yellow though. It's not St. Patty's Day green. However, I do also have, that I wanted to open up before I actually like leave and start reading, some mail. So I have my book depository order right here, which is actually, no, I'm sorry. I have my Waterstones package here, which should be more Brandon Sanderson books. Unfortunately, I don't have scissors with me, so I might just struggle real quick. Ow! There was a tab on there the whole time. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I was just gonna dump these out into my lap. Okay. Oh, these are so pretty. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? I bought the Mistborn trilogy, so we have book 1, The Final Empire, and I got the UK editions because they're so pretty. I have book 2, The Well of Ascension, and book 3, The Hero of Ages. And look at this next to, can you imagine a Brandon Sanderson shelf? I can picture it already. These are stunning. I am so excited. I also really, really like the UK paperback size. It's slightly bigger than a mass market. I don't have any mass markets. I put them all in my closet. It's like slightly bigger than a mass market. I would say mass market's probably like this big. So it is like a little bit bigger, but Oh, they look so stunning. They're so like pristine. We will appreciate these spines right now before I annihilate them when I pick up Mistborn. But this is on my 2023 TBR, so it's something that I do want to eventually pick up. But it's so fun that I'm like reading Warbreaker and then I was able to haul these. And then I have a book depository order here, and I believe this was sent to me by Liz. So thank you, Liz. Unless it's not from Liz, in which case I take that back. But I was like, oh, what else did I order? Because it was like 3 in the morning when I ordered most of my books last time. So, oh, there's three, girl. Oh my gosh, Liz. I've been dying to read this trilogy, the Greenbone Saga, and I've heard like incredible things about Jade City. It's by Fonda Lee. Potential book club book. It matches for St. Patty's Day. It's been a while since, oh, who did I see? I watched ages ago a video by Mel Reeds when she read this, and she was just talking about it, and it seemed like perfectly up my alley. I don't remember what it's about though, because it's been a while since I've like checked the summary of what it is about. Okay, Ken Liu says, an epic drama reminiscent of the best classic Hong Kong gangster films, but taking place in a fantasy metropolis so gritty and well imagined that you'll forget you're reading a book. I hope this is like These Violent Ends, but like way better in terms of like setting, because it sounds so good. Anyways, thank you so much. And like the fact that you sent me the whole series is literally like the sweetest thing ever. Thank you so much, Liz. I was expecting like 1 book, not 3. I appreciate it so much, and I cannot wait to add these books to my TBR now that I own them. Oh no, I'm gonna have to pick these up very soon, but I don't know when I'll have time to like commit myself to a full series. Oh my gosh, there's my little haul. So many good books, as if I have any room on my bookshelf. I do not have any room, but I need to go and start reading. I don't even know, I'm a mess over here. I need to go and start reading The Burning Bridge by John Flanagan. I'm literally gonna have 1 pen and 1 pack of sticky notes and just like casually annotate it. I'm not trying to like have any sort of like annotation key, just like my 1 pen and my 1 sticky note, and I'll just write whatever the fuck I want here, basically. So this was a very long intro, I do apologize, but let's go ahead and actually get started with the vlog. I forgot my camera. No. Okay, it is later. It's like 11 p.m. It is after my shift. I changed my lights to green. I feel like it's kind of hard to tell that they're green. But they're green because like this is red. So they are green. I made it 9 chapters into The Burning Bridge at the coffee shop. I was very upset that I forgot my camera, so I hope you enjoyed those phone vlog clips. I was very sad. I was like, I got all cute and dressed up only to forget my camera at home. I remember my tripod, forgot my camera, but I'm actually going to go and shower and then call Katie. We're gonna have a little like book reading date. She's filming a 48-hour readathon right now, and I need to finish the rest of this book by tonight. And so I texted her and I was like, hey, do you wanna read together? So I'll be calling her and finishing The Burning Bridge tonight. But I, like, already, there's been like 2 of my favorite scenes in this book. Because I read the series and the series is so long and I read it so many times, I really sometimes like mix up when certain scenes happen. For the most part, if I think really hard, I can remember like per book. But for the most part, when I think of it as a whole, I have a few scenes that like really stand out to me that I'm like, those were really good like dialogue scenes, very witty, very fun. And there has already been 2 in this book and I freaking love it. Chapter 5 and chapter 6, like back to back, those chapters are so good and so funny. 2 of our main characters are out on a little mission and they are both apprentices. And we're getting like kind of like a training scene as they're like learning new things. And at one point, one of the characters, he was fighting one of the rangers. I'm trying to explain this in like a not spoilery way. Essentially, one of the characters was fighting one of the rangers with the sword, and it was so funny because he was like trying to fight him, trying to like break through his guard and his defense, and he couldn't quite do it. And like the ranger had like years more experience in terms of like swordplay. And he was like, oh, I have done this like once or twice, you know? And like the dude that was like trying to hack through and like chop off his head was like very frustrated. It was all during like training. I am explaining this very poorly, but I tend to do that with books I love. I just can't get my thoughts collected. Basically, it reminded me of how I am in jiu-jitsu because like I'm super new, but when I roll with like the people who have been doing it longer than me or people who are higher belts, I'm like super duper competitive where I'm like, I have to be the best. And I like be confused and mad of like why I can't break their guard or why I like can't like pass their guard and be all like angry. And I'm just like, wow, if that isn't me, I don't know what is. There's just like a lot of fun moments, and the trio that is together in this book in terms of like main characters is so fun. And even like the back and forth between perspectives, it just like flows so well, and I never get annoyed when the perspectives switch between characters. I need to go shower and eat and call Katie. So let me do that, but that is my little update for the start. I look so comfortable, and I kind of am, I'm gonna be honest. Katie is here. She's just over here.
I was getting ready.
Oh, you were practicing your wave?
Yeah, I had to make sure I had a good one. Maybe I can get my royal wave. Like a thank you, my loyal subject. I'm tired.
That's the update you get.
That's it? That's really mean.
So basically, go watch Katie's vlog if you want more Katie content. Go subscribe to Katie, get all the Katie content. I made it like 50 pages in. I thought that reading with Katie would motivate me a little bit more. And it like did. Like I am loving this book and I am enjoying it, but we ended up talking for like 45 minutes before we even like started reading.
We set ourselves a little timer so we would like actually read for half an hour instead of just sitting there and talking about nothing.
No, we talked about things. We picked our next month's book club book.
That's true.
I'm
just gonna keep saying it because I'm not muted.
a quarter till.
12 minutes till. Okay, I'll stop now.
I don't even.
Just kidding.
There's always shenanigans with Katie and I. I never can like get thoughts out when we're on call or anything. But I made it to page 110. I read about 50 pages in our like half-hour reading sprint. I am annotating, so I'm reading like a little bit slower, which I always like say and I like make a point of saying. And I don't know why I make a point of saying, because obviously if you're annotating, you're reading slower. But honestly, I should just like put my pen away if I can just like binge read the rest of this book, because I do have my live show tomorrow. I am dealing with the product of my own making in terms of like the chaos, and like I'm not really that stressed because I know I'll like stay up and finish it tonight. I am sacrificing like a little bit of sleep, which is unfortunate, but bright side, spending time with Katie. So serotonin, love her. I love this book so much. I love Will as an apprentice because I think that's like the fun thing about this series in particular, is getting to follow characters when they're an apprentice, as well as like later books when they're no longer an apprentice and they're like grown up, and you like get to grow up with him throughout the series. And it's fun also reading this book series so many times in terms of like growing up with the characters almost, because there are times when I was a kid that I could relate to certain scenarios that are going on in like this book. And then in later books now I can relate to where I am in life in terms of like moving out on my own and making all these decisions like on my own and no longer using it in terms of like an apprentice, but like living with my parents. That's sort of kind of how I love when smart words come out of my mouth like that. But it's kind of how it is in terms of me relating to the characters per se. And just getting to see Will when he's like a little baby. He's like 16 in this book. And I'm like, I remember reading this before I was even 16 and being like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I'm 16 because then I can be Will's age. And now I'm 21. It's like 5 years later, y'all. And I'm feeling my age. Literally tonight, I was talking to one of the tables I was serving and I noticed they had like a gymnastics hoodie on. And I used to do gymnastics, so I like had a discussion with them. And I was like, oh yeah, like I remember I went to state 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 or 8 years ago. And then I had a moment, I was like, 7 or 8 years ago. Growing up is so weird, but it's also fun to just accept it because like it's inevitable and you have to accept it. That is my late night ramblings. I'm gonna go back to reading because like I said, it is quarter till and I need to finish this book tonight at some point, and so reading is the only way to accomplish that. I am very comfy also. I finally got comfy. I don't feel like reaching to turn off the camera either. Reading time lapse, it is. Hello!
Excuse you.
It's 8 till. I'ma just keep saying it because I'm not muted. I just finished the live show for The Burning Bridge for our readathon, and it was incredibly fun. We had such good discussions. The trivia was so fun. Rosalie and I had a moment during the live because I didn't know about this, but Rosalie was telling me that when the book was published in the US, the publishers basically requested more halt content. And so there was 3 additional chapters published in the US edition, but not in like the Dutch or the Australian editions, I believe is what she had said. And I was shook that some of my favorite chapters weren't even in like the original published book, which is a crime because these scenes are so funny. And then Rosalie realized that there's a segment that she hadn't even read of the newer chapters, even though she was the one who knew about the new chapters. And it was just so funny. I also changed back into my pajamas, like, as I deserve, because I want to be comfy. I have 3 hours until I go to work, and well, I would love to pick up and finish Chain of Thorns, which I could theoretically do. I actually have to edit, so I'm gonna go edit. I'm gonna eat, because I've been saying for the past, like, half hour that I need to go eat because I didn't have time to eat breakfast because I snoozed my alarm too many times. And I woke up and I had to finish, like, the last 20 pages of this book because I fell asleep last night while reading, to no one's shock. But this ending, the ending of this book gets me every single time. The entire scene with Horace and then the scene with Halt at the very, very end leading up into the Icebound Land is just spectacular. And we were talking a lot about the characters and how well they kind of write the characters as 16-year-olds and as characters who have doubts and how they are very skilled, but they are also just children. And so they don't make the characters so overpowered to where you believe that they will be victorious no matter what. They have their flaws, they have their fears, and I think that's a very beautiful thing about John Flanagan's characters. I love them so much. Also, this camera angle is like slightly weird, and I'm only realizing it now, so don't mind that. I'm literally closing off the clip. That is my thoughts. 5 out of 5. This book in particular is what typically makes me want to just binge read the next 2 books because it leaves off on such a little like cliffhanger, and just knowing what occurs in book 3 hurts my heart. And I'm not ready because it gets me every single time. But that is that for now. I need to go edit and eat. You know, it'd be kind of funny if I was editing this vlog. That would be so meta though. I am not. I'm editing my birthday vlog, so I'm with Katie.
And then I realized it was muted.
Katie's ending her vlog right now and I'm editing still. This is a new day, obviously. Red hoodie, hello. I've just been editing all day. I've got it cut down to 2 hours though instead of 3 hours, but this is what my timeline looks like right now. A lot. It looks like a lot. Also, I look like an absolute bum and I haven't had any time to read today. So that's my update for today. I just wanted an excuse to annoy Katie. Hello. I look extremely extra today because, well, it's currently like 5 p.m. and I've literally done nothing. I edited videos on Sunday, or I'm sorry, I edited one video on Sunday for like 7 hours. And then yesterday I spent like 6 to 7 hours working on Etsy stuff. And I also work an actual like job and not just like all my entrepreneurial hobbies slash business situations. And so I was like, I need a day off because I am reaching my breaking point. So I've done literally nothing today. I went on my computer to dispute a copyright claim. That's like the only work I've done today. And then I spent like an hour and a half getting ready because my friend is coming over to take some pictures of me. She's a photographer. Her name is Trinity. You'll get to see her. She's my coworker and she's like, when will I be featured in a vlog? So I was like, you can be featured in a vlog and we'll take pictures of each other. So that is the situation that is occurring in a little bit here. I promise I will be reading. I just have hit a slump a little bit and I don't want to like force myself to read if I don't want to. Also, I really want to show off what I did with my hair because I spent like an hour on this and I don't know what I was doing. I just kept adding braids. So let me just awkwardly scooch around here. Hopefully you can kind of see. Is it cool? I don't know. It was kind of fun. I feel very like Viking warrior slash like fairy princess because this is the dress I have on. It's like a green floral situation. So it's giving spring court and I'm not completely complaining because that is like the vibe. It is spring, so hopefully I was giving spring court. Jewelry situations, these are from Lin Trung's beautiful collection. This is best dressed necklace. That is the situation, that is the plan. She should be here any minute, so I'm gonna shut up and go. Here we go, round 2. We here see Trinity in the wild, struggling a little, but she successfully makes it down. I don't know why, every time I have a camera turned on, my friends twerk. It's cold! The content! Good content for the internet! But the Tide romper is a look. Let's look at the Tide romper. It's good. She's like a little penguin. There you go. And it's probably all really shitty because we're right by running water. All you probably hear is them. Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, follow me. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Photographer account linked here. Go support her. She's super talented and falling, apparently. We just took, you know, a few photos. Just a few. I'm back home now. That was an absolute lovely time. We spent like 2 hours taking photos. I felt like a freaking fairy. and I will probably be sharing those on Instagram whenever she has time to edit them. Now I'm going to go take a very quick shower and then run to specs, and then I'm just gonna hang out, do a little bit of gaming with some of my friends, including Trinity. But yeah, it was such a fun day. Seriously, I like really needed the connection to nature. That sounds like so cheesy and so ridiculous, but just being barefoot in water and like laying on grass, it worked. I feel like so much better than I did before I left. Like, it's literally insane. However, I am on a time crunch, so I'm going to go and hopefully do some reading tomorrow morning, and I'll update you then.
Yeah, go ahead and do that one then.
Milo! Why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me like that?
How many turns?
What are you doing?
25?
What are you doing? Milo! Milo! Oh, baby! Hey, that's my good bag. Hello? Ow! Ow! Disengage! Disengage! Oh my god!
Yeah! Just make it a course. Right.
I'm about to rush out of here for work, but I couldn't leave without speaking my thoughts on Chain of Thorns because I sat in this chair right here for 2 hours and I finally finished this book because I just needed to be done with it. And unfortunately, it was definitely a book where I just like wanted to be finished. I ended up rating it 3 stars, which was severely disappointing considering that it is literally the finale of the Last Hour series. I know actually a lot of people had issue. I went and read some of the reviews and they pretty much agreed with my own opinions. I'm kind of like over talking about this because I don't think this book deserves to be stretched over 3 whole vlogs on my channel, but here we are. So these are my final thoughts on Chain of Thorns. The plot dragged so badly, and the characters just felt like they were acting very, very irrationally. There were just too many characters. I feel like this is the case in a lot of books where you have too many characters and there's always that one POV you just give no shits about. That was me, but with like multiple POVs, especially after a certain situation. I don't understand how the characters handled that. It felt very glazed over and it felt like there was no purpose for what had happened. And then even furthermore, the way the characters handled it was just so poor because it just made no sense, and I can't discuss it in a not spoilery manner. It just, like, the way the characters acted in reaction to something made no sense. It just felt like it was glossed over way too much. I'm like, where are the feelings? Where are the feelings? Speaking of feelings, I hated the love triangle in this book. It was so ridiculous. The beginning of this book was foul. It was absolutely ridiculous. Cassie Clare needs to stop with the love triangles. The entirety of this book felt so underwhelming, especially the stakes. The villains were cut and dry and basic and like one-dimensional. I'm like, give us some stakes here, because the stakes that these characters were in didn't feel very real, because we know this is a prequel series. So we know the universe is gonna turn out fine. And sure, we get to worry about our characters and if they're gonna survive or not. That is a decently motivating force to finish this series, but in terms of like the major plot, the major villain, I was like, what was that? Very, very underwhelming. I can't imagine waiting 2 whole years for this very hyped book and then reading this. Apparently Cassie Clare had a different ending that was like much more tragic, and I almost wish she would have went with that one. Or like cut out a bunch of these pages. It felt like a JLA book. I'm like, where is this girl's editor? Because so many characters felt irrelevant to where we could have wrapped up their plot lines and their relationship issues way earlier into the book. But we decided to keep on the miscommunication with every single couple and stretch it out over 800 pages. And that just made no sense to me because it felt like a waste of time, quite frankly. I think this book could have been condensed if we took out POVs that really didn't add much to the story. There's a couple of couples that I really, really liked. I can't say them obviously because of spoilers, but there are a few couples in here that I did actually enjoy and appreciate. But then there are a few where I'm like, why are these characters relevant? Why are we getting their POVs? Do we really need to see like their backstory and like their family? We don't need that in this book. That's not what this series is, but we just kept getting it. And unfortunately, with a lot of the resolutions after like the miscommunications and like the fighting and stuff with these couples, a lot of them came together after like a big battle, and I feel like the only reason they came together was because of like their shared trauma. And so instead of actually working through their issues of why they were arguing in the first place, it was like suddenly their lives were on the line, it was life or death, and suddenly all their problems were resolved. And not just relationships, but friendships too. There were two characters that were fighting basically the entire book. And then after the battle, everything's suddenly like honky-dory. I really hated that I said that, but everything's all sunshine and roses. And I'm like, you didn't even talk through your problems. For a book that has so much miscommunication, there is no real communication in this book at all for these couples to end up together in a logical and like emotional way. I get the trauma situation where it's like, oh my god, we could have died, oh my god, I did love you after all. So many of the couples were resolved in that way, and I think it was kind of a cop-out on Cassie Clare's part, where she had all this tension and fighting between characters and relationships, and instead of having them come to their like natural fruition of like, could they actually work out? Could they like move past their problems? It was like characters suddenly like a light switch suddenly became a different character almost, and it was very, very frustrating. I just wanted this to be over. The plot dragged so bad, and I was over it. So definitely at 3 stars. Unfortunately, very, very disappointing. I wish I could talk more highly of this book because I love Cassie Clare, and I just think this fell so flat, especially after I enjoyed the first 2. But all the problems I had in the first 2, instead of taking the good from the first 2, she took all the bad that I hated into the 3rd book. That's my thoughts on Chain of Thorns, unfortunately. But my reading plans for today is I actually have Sorcery of Thorns on my phone, and so I might read it a little bit when I'm at work because it's a Wednesday and we're typically pretty slow. And I just want to get a few chapters in that and then maybe read tonight, but I wanted to give you an update on my morning reading situation. It didn't put me in a reading slump, but I wanted to finish this and I didn't want to pick up any other books until I finished this, and I put off finishing this for so long. But it's over. It's over, and now I'm running late for work. Some fun updates. I've actually done quite a bit of reading this morning. Well, I say quite a bit of reading. I sat down and read for 45 minutes and I made it to page 70 of Warbreaker because I realized today is Thursday and my live show for this is Saturday. So I kind of had to put Sorcery of Thorns on hold, but I am also reading that. I read a little bit at work last night. It's loading. I made it to chapter 4. So maybe I didn't do quite a bit of reading. I take that back. However, in regards to how much reading I've done like the rest of the week, kind of a lot of reading. 4 whole chapters, and I think I'm on chapter like 6. So I made it to chapter 4 of Sorcery of Thorns, and one thing I will say about this book is already the descriptions of the scenery is just immaculate. I love reading about the library and the descriptions of the books and the sunlight streaming in through the windows. It's just painting such a pretty picture, and I wish I could more vividly like see things in my head for I could like truly imagine where our character is at. And I can't wait to actually like dive into more of this book. Like I said, I'm only 4 chapters in and I feel like the chapters are somewhat short, so I'm not that far into the story. And then as for Warbreaker, I am really enjoying this. I will say it reads exactly how I thought it would read, which is very, very pleasant. I only have one complaint, and that's that one of the main characters is named Siri, and I just can't look at that name without picturing like Apple's Siri, you know? So that's like my only complaint right now. I think the universe is very, very fascinating in terms of how color works, and the perspectives we're getting is also interesting. I do really like the person we got in the prologue, Vasher. I think his character is very interesting, and I love his sword as well. I love when inanimate objects or animals, things that you wouldn't expect to talk, have dialogue, because they are so funny for no reason. Like in 6 Crimson Cranes, there was like a paper crane who had a personality, and she was super fun. In Ranger's Apprentice, the horses have like dialogue but not real dialogue, and that's super fun. And so the sword speaking is cracking me up and I love it so much. I'm trying to think of the sword name. Nightblood. It's just a fun little like addition to this book and this universe, and I cannot wait to dive more into this. Our main character is about to meet, or is she the main character, Ciri? Is she one of the main characters? I'm not sure how everything's gonna be tied up, but Ciri is about to meet the God King, who sounds like an absolute douche. So I can't wait to meet his character, and I'm hoping it's a case of his reputation being false in terms of how he evidently treats people, because he sounds like a really, really shitty person. And I hope that Ciri does not have to deal with that, because big yikes. I'm gonna read like a little bit more before work, and then I'm hoping after work I will actually like sit and read, because I am out of my reading slump. This book has gotten me out of my reading slump, as has the weather, which is a weird thing, but the weather is so nice out and it just put me in a good mood, and reading this put me in a good mood. I'm doing so much better already, which is so nice because this week has been rough, but finally actually reading out of my little slump session that I had. And I wish I could sit here longer and get more into this book, but unfortunately I have work in like a half hour, so I need to eat. And maybe I'll do like a little bit more reading, but I will update you tonight. I'm hoping to have time to read a little bit more of Sorcery of Thorns while I'm at work, just because I have it on my phone already, and then a little bit more of Warbreaker tonight, depending on what I have to do. I haven't really looked at like things I have to do, but I might just put everything off and read more of Warbreaker. I am wearing the same exact shirt that I wore the other day when I was about to call Katie, and I am actually about to call her again. My phone was just dying, and so I didn't want to like start an Instagram call, because those things suck your battery like no tomorrow, so I needed to charge it up for it wasn't at like 10%. I read quite a bit at work today. I had time to read for like a half hour, 45 minutes, kind of hiding my phone from the manager, but that's besides the point. I made it to chapter 9, page 99. Would you look at that? Oh, I'm literally one page away from chapter 10. I'm really, really liking kind of where the plot is going. I kind of predicted what would happen when the whole situation with the grimoire, is it called a grimoire? I think it's something like that. That whole situation happened with Elizabeth and the director. I knew exactly what would happen, and when it happened I was like, I'm not surprised. But Nathaniel Thorn, I freaking love his character. And I'm only on chapter 9, so I haven't really gotten a lot of Nathaniel action, but I already love his character. Already some of the lines he's had, I'm like, that's good. Like, I appreciate your humor, Nathaniel, even though Elizabeth might not. I really, really wanted to actually like keep reading this once I got home, but I just did the math and I have 552 pages left of Warbreaker to finish, so I was like, maybe, just maybe I should tackle this book if I can get it done. But I'm like feeling invigorated with my reading all of a sudden. I'm like reading 2 amazing books right now. I just feel like I haven't read like this amount of good content in a while. And I think Chain of Thorns just really, really put me off. It took me literally like 3 weeks to finish that book, and it would have put me in a reading slump had I not had to read Warbreaker. Granted, I was in like a little bit of a reading slump, but it was a reading slump while I was reading Chain of Thorns, which is kind of weird. I know I couldn't bring myself to DNF it, but it was definitely a book where I was just so bored. But we're not talking about Chain of Thorns. We're gonna talk about Warbreaker real quick, because I read a little bit more on page 100. On page 100 of both of these books. I cooked dinner today, which like sounds super dramatic, but I don't cook, okay? But I cooked myself some chicken and rice, and I'm just in such a good mood. I ate good food at work. I had some fun tables. Granted, I didn't make a lot of money, but everyone was in a good mood at work today. I was in a good mood this morning when I was reading, and now I'm in a really good mood because I get to read and call my best friend, and that's just so fun. I love the tone of this vlog has like shifted so much from like my mental state at the beginning of this vlog to like near the end. I low-key need to finish this book by tomorrow, and then I probably will end this vlog on Saturday, and hopefully I have some time to finish Sorcery of Thorns as well. I almost said Chain of Thorns. Sorcery of Thorns, we've read Chain of Thorns, we're reading Sorcery of Thorns, Warbreaker, love that. Anyways, my brain is like very chaotic right now, so I'm going to sit and read, and then I might force Katie to say hello to y'all again, because who doesn't want a little hello from Katie? You know, twice in one vlog, y'all are spoiled. But I'm going to do that. My battery needs to charge like a little bit more, but I'm hopefully gonna make a decent chunk of progress into Warbreaker, and I'll update you when I update you. I feel like I'm definitely going to fall asleep very, very soon. It's now 1 in the morning and I made it to page 182, and my plan is literally just to read for the rest of the night until I pass out. So that's what the situation that is occurring. I was talking to Katie a little bit about Warbreaker, and then I did also complain more about Chain of Thorns. So truly just in the mood to complain about that book. But I was talking to Katie and I was like, I really don't not mind any of the POVs that we're getting. All of them have like a different thing that they're bringing to the story, and I think it's flowing quite nicely. Katie just got back and she's staring at me while I'm updating my vlog, and now I'm uncomfortable.
I'm just gonna assume you're talking about me, so hey! Are you updating the vlog? Oh my god. Hey guys.
Yeah, I was updating and then I was telling them that you looked over at me and then I became uncomfortable.
Good.
So, oh, okay. There you go. You get nighttime Katie and I twice in one vlog.
That's a special moment, my friend.
I was literally just telling them that I was about to fall asleep. So I was like, I was gonna update before that happened. I'm still having a fun old time. I do wish I started this earlier, and I do say that every single time with my book club books, but the second there's like a deadline on anything, I'm like, I'll get to it eventually, and then I always seem to wait until like the last minute. To be fair though, Katie's only like twice as far into it as I am, because I'm on page 182 and she's on like 370, 380. But basically, we both suck at reading things in a timely manner. Like, I know I'll be able to finish this. I have the morning tomorrow after jujitsu. I'll be reading this and shirking everything else that I have to do. Thank goodness I already have my video for Friday edited, or else it would have been rough. But I'm going to get back to reading and fall asleep, and I'll update y'all tomorrow. All right.
Screaming now. I hope you started recording already.
Katie and I just got off our live show talking about Warbreaker.
Cast the loser.
Katie and I just got off our live talking about Warbreaker, and I ended up giving it a 4.5. I stayed up and I finished it last night, and I really thought this was such a solid book. I was incredibly impressed with Brandon Sanderson's writing. I have like very in-depth thoughts that I talk about during the live show. Granted, they are spoilery. We do have a live show discussion, so there's that. But in terms of talking about it in a not spoiler way, I was so impressed with character arcs, with plot twists, with plot reveals, how there was discussion about religion and class, and it was just so solid. My first Brando Sando book, and I'm extremely impressed, and I've heard his books only get better from here. One of my favorite characters was Vasher, and I really do wish that we got more of him. I think his character was very fascinating, and his action sequences and how he used his breath was also very, very good. And it started the book out so strong. I couldn't think of a better way to start this book off than with Vasher and his kind of like escape. That happens all in like the prologue, so it's not like a huge spoiler. I also really enjoyed Vivenna's character arc and development. One of the main things we talked about during the live was how Vivenna might have annoyed a lot of people, but her arc was definitely the best in terms of her character development and kind of growing into the person that she wants to be. That was super fascinating. I also like how her ending wraps up and how it was kind of open enough for a sequel. Other than Vasher, one of my favorite characters was Lightsong. He was such a fascinating character, and I really liked getting a god's perspective on things, and I love how he was just so convinced. He's like, I'm not a god. Why do people think I'm a god? And he rode that wave, and I loved it. I love some of his lines. Some of them might have been like a little silly, but they still made me laugh, and I was really entertained by his character, and the actions he ended up taking in the end were so perfect. I was a little sad, but I think with everything that happened, it made sense. I loved the tie-in of how everything kind of came together at the end. Siri, her character, we didn't really get like too much of, but I thought she was very sweet, and I love how she kind of learned how to play the political game. And there were so many reveals throughout this book. I was discussing during the live how a lot of recent books I've felt were very predictable. Even if I couldn't guess exactly what was going to happen in terms of the plot, I could kind of guess like vaguely like, oh, I kind of saw that coming. This book, I thought that I knew what was going on and I thought that I was predicting things correctly. And then it went in a completely opposite direction. There were betrayals and I love a good betrayal. I hate it, but I love it. I was definitely in denial for a little bit, but I loved it. And I also love how that betrayal changed a character. I'm not gonna spoil that obviously, but it was just done so well, and it was not the character that I expected, which also was exciting because I love when books aren't predictable, and this book definitely was not in any way predictable. I did give it a 4.5. Super solid way to, I think, dive into the Cosmere. I don't know what that means. I haven't read any other Brandon Sanderson books, but for a Brandon Sanderson standalone, I think this wraps up so nicely. Some people do have issue with how open the ending is, and a lot of people said that it was like a little abrupt, which I can see your perspective on that. However, I really enjoyed how this book ended. So it's not an open ending per se, but it is open enough to be left for interpretation. I love that. If a sequel comes out, I will definitely read the sequel. There's an apparent sequel called Nightblood, which one of my other favorite characters, the sword is iconic. I will read that if it comes out, especially because I feel like it would have more Vasher in it. And like I said, love him. I want to learn more about his character. My only gripe isn't really even like a big gripe. It was just we got a detailed explanation of the magic system 508 pages in. And that is very far into this book to be finally like giving an explanation. Let me give you a visual in case you were wondering. This is how far into the book you had to get before you got a detailed explanation of how the magic system works. Although I will say, even without the detailed explanation, it was very easy to understand in my opinion. Nothing really confused me. There are a few rules where I was like, okay, does that make sense? But then it was all cleared up by page 508. And then the only other like part of the story that I was bored at, it was a very small segment, but when a storyteller is telling Siri a story, I will never not be bored when a storyteller or like any character is explaining history to another character. I could give less shits. That was the only point in the book where I was like a little bored, and it didn't even last that many pages, like maybe 4 pages. In terms of pacing, I think it did so well, and I also was never annoyed by any POVs, which is so shockingly rare in a fantasy book because there's always that one POV in fantasy books. You know, there's always that one POV that you just give absolutely no care to, and you want to just zoom through their chapters. Every single character had a different thing going on that... You are being so noisy right now.
I picked up my phone and I brought it over here so I could type something.
There's an explanation.
Hey, I don't know what else to say at this point.
What'd you rate Warbreaker?
4 something stars. I don't know. I'm not sure yet.
4 something stars.
4
Anyways,
something stars.
4 something stars. That is my little
Yeah.
update on Warbreaker. Oh, let me mute myself. I'm just so easily entertained. That is my update. That is my update about Warbreaker. I don't remember what my train of thought was before Katie started being a little loud. I really wanted to finish Sorcery of Thorns in this vlog, but unfortunately that did not happen with scheduling and like the business aspects of things that I had to handle this week with like orders and like my website and all that sort of stuff. But I am on page 100 of Sorcery of Thorns, and I'm really excited to dive back into this book, especially after finishing Warbreaker. I'm on a reader's high right now, and I know that I'm already enjoying Sorcery of Thorns. That is very helpful, because then I'm not gonna have any like book hangover, because I already know that I'm gonna enjoy this book quite a bit. I feel like my head right now is like muddled with Warbreaker characters, so I'm trying to remember. It's Elizabeth and is it Thomas? That seems wrong. Nathaniel. It's Nathaniel. I'm really excited to see, is this an enemies to, I don't even know if this is like an enemies to lovers book or not. Is there romance in this book? I honestly don't know. I love going into books knowing nothing, but it makes vlogging about them very difficult. But I really do love Nathaniel's character, and I think Elizabeth's character and their dynamic is going to be very interesting. I need to like read 5 pages to like catch my brain up to where we're at in this book, because again, I have Warbreaker thoughts swirling in my head. But I really hope this is going to be a high-star read. I can feel it already. I'm flying through it, really enjoying it. And yeah, this will be what I'm picking up next in terms of books. I just didn't have time to finish it because, oh my, because of this 3-star monstrosity. I kind of bitched about Chain of Thorns throughout this entire vlog, so I will spare you complaining about it anymore. I already kind of gave my in-depth thoughts about it. It was read, someone wrote it, it's a 3-star, and now we're here. That is that. But I really enjoyed Warbreaker, and I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts about it. I hope you enjoyed this vlog, my little St. Patty's Day. I think it's kind of appropriate that I'm ending this vlog while wearing green. That wasn't even planned. It's just like one of my favorite shirts because it's my One Us concert shirt. I really did hope you enjoyed this vlog. I want to thank all of my lovely Patreons over on Chaos X Cast for supporting my channel, having the chaotic book club discussions with me, and just having a good old time. A grand old time over there. We have a monthly buddy read, we have bonus behind the scenes content, and just the typical chaos that comes with being in direct contact with me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in the next one. Toodles!
Toodles! Oh my god. I did it at the wrong time. Oh well, it's fine.
Good enough.